Welcome back, viewers. You're watching WION World is One. This is World DNA, the show that gets you ahead of the rest. I'm Shivan.
And I'm Hemkor Soroyan. And on the show today, with Prime Minister Barnier being ousted in a no-confidence vote, the French government has collapsed just 3 months after he was appointed by President Emmanuel Macron. The question is, what options is Macron now left with? We will explore this on the show today.
Also on World DNA, in the Israel-Hamas war, the Israeli military has claimed that the body of an Israeli hostage has been recovered in a joint operation with the Shin Bet Security Service. We'll bring you all the updates on that front as well. This and a lot more right here on World DNA. Let's start with the headlines.
French Prime Minister Barnier to submit resignation to President Macron today after his government loses no confidence vote in the parliament.
Leader of South Korea's ruling party asks President Yoon Suk-yeol to leave the party. Defense Minister resigns over turmoil caused by imposition of martial law.
Rebels surround Syria's key central city of Hama from 3 sides, says a war monitor. Over 115,000 people displaced by fighting.
Thousands of pro-EU protesters rally in Georgia for a 7th consecutive night after police raided opposition party offices and made arrests.
Massive manhunt underway in the United States after top insurance company CEO shot dead outside a New York hotel.
Newcastle United hold leaders Liverpool in a 6-goal thriller at St James Park. The draw cuts the Reds' lead at the top to 7 points in the Premier League. This is the big news we're tracking for you at this hour, starting the bulletin right here with this. France has plunged into a political crisis after a no-confidence vote brought down the government of Prime Minister Michel Barnier.
Now, the National Assembly's lower house debated 2 motions brought by the hard left and the far right in a standoff over next year's austerity budget. This after Barnier on Wednesday forced through a social security financing bill without a vote. The National Assembly approved the no-confidence motion by 331 votes. A minimum of 288 were needed. Wednesday's was the country's first successful no-confidence vote since the defeat of Georges Pompidou government in 1962, when Charles de Gaulle was the president.
Barnier now has to tender his resignation and that of his government to President Emmanuel Macron. He is expected to do so on Thursday morning, according to French media. Now, Barnier government's 3-month tenure will be the shortest lived in France's modern republic history. Part of the left and far right has also called for Macron's exit, which the French president has ruled out, insisting he will serve the rest of his term until 2027.
Macron, who just returned from Saudi Arabia, will address the French people. This is what his office has said. He will need to appoint a new prime minister for the 2nd time after July's legislative elections led to a deeply divided parliament. It comprises 3 major blocs, that's Macron's centrist allies, the left-wing coalition, New Popular Front and the far-right National Rally.
And now shifting focus to the tensions in West Asia, Syria is well on its way to falling back to its pre-2020 situation, with the civil war drawing in global powers and deadly weapons snowballing by the day.
The death toll has shot up beyond 700. Tens of thousands are already displaced. The gloves are off and the crisis has nosedived. And the worst is yet to come. More in this next report.
Thousands fleeing Aleppo reached Taqba in northern Syria. Vans and tractors carrying those who'd fled their homes dotted roads leading to the city, with tents being set up in the town. A local official said efforts were afoot to accommodate the heavy arrivals. The refugee situation shows signs of turning uglier. The UN says 50,000 people have been displaced in just the last week.
The autonomous administration opened 2 centers to receive them, and after that they will be sorted into accommodation centers in schools. There will be other plans to shelter them.
Syrian rebel forces have advanced on the country's 4th largest city of Hama after their lightning capture of swaths of territory in the north. According to Syria's army command, its forces were striking the rebels in North Hama and Idlib provinces with Russian air support. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said the rebels are now at the gates of Hama city and that the rebels have shelled some neighborhoods. Hama was a bastion of opposition to Bashar al-Assad's government early in the civil war, and its capture by the rebels would pose a threat to the regime's popular base. Iran has said it will consider any request from its ally for troops. Russian President Vladimir Putin has called for a speedy end to the offensive in Syria. The Kremlin says Russia, Iran and Turkey are working closely towards reaching a solution. Russia's ambassador to the UN has accused Ukraine of aiding the rebels and training them for combat operations in Syria. Ukraine's geographical proximity to Syria has been frequently pointed out. Kyiv has hit out at the Assad government in Syria for recognizing Moscow's annexation of the Crimean Peninsula in 2014, claiming that Ukrainians were also being targeted on a nightly basis by Iranian-designed drones. The Russia-Ukraine dimension jumps out.
Obviously, there was a so-called Ukrainian trace, given the incoming information about the interaction of the Kiev regime's special services with the militants of the terrorist organization Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, including the transfer of drones, experience in their use, and so on. This is not the first and, unfortunately, as we understand, not the last region where the Kiev terrorist regime will apply its criminal experience. Before this, there were African countries. Now we are talking about Syria.
More signals that the crisis in Syria is not dying out soon. Russia says its Navy frigates launched new generation hypersonic missiles during naval drills in the eastern Mediterranean. The Kremlin released footage of exercises near Tartus of Zircon hypersonic anti-ship missiles. A Russian submarine launched a Caliber cruise missile. On its part, the US has said it would continue to fight Russian and Iranian support to the Syrian regime. Syria braces for revival of bad times. Its theatre of war cloud returns. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
And Israel has announced that they have recovered the body of a hostage from Gaza.
The Israeli military has also released details of the deaths of 6 other hostages. Now, the IDF has said that the body of Ite Spirsky has been brought back in a special operation,
adding that he was taken hostage on the 7th of October last year and then killed in Hamas captivity.
Now, on the same day, the IDF has also shared investigation findings on the deaths of 6 Gaza hostages in February. Their deaths have been linked to an Israeli airstrike on a tunnel in Khan Yunis. The 6 bodies were recovered in August, sparking anger among their families who asked for answers regarding the circumstances of their death.
Earlier, the army said in a statement that at the time of the strike, they had no information that the hostages were underground in the underground compound. Now, IDF spokesperson has said that the most likely possibility, according to them, is that the terrorists murdered the hostages.
The inquiry investigated the reasons behind the death of the hostages and raised a number of possibilities. The possibility we think is the likeliest is that due to the strike, the terrorists murdered the hostages and the terrorists themselves were killed as a result of the IDF strike.
As Israel's investigation into the hostages continued, Gazans were seen fleeing from Beit Lahiya. The evacuation orders came as Israel heavily bombarded the northern town as part of an intensive 2-month operation. Residents in 3 towns, Jabalia, Beit Lahiya and Beit Hanun, said that Israeli forces had blown up dozens of houses. Palestinians say Israel's army is trying to drive people out of the northern edge of Gaza with forced evacuations and bombardments to create a buffer zone.
As thousands fled the north, Israeli strikes continued in southern Gaza as well. Gazan officials have said at least 21 people were killed in a displacement camp in Khan Yunis. Dozens were left injured. Earlier strikes on central Gaza killed 8 people, including 4 children. As Gazans remain beset by strikes all along the strip, about 100 Israeli hostages still remain inside Gaza. At least a third of them are believed to be dead.
Defense Minister Israel Katz has said that Israel has pressured Hamas to the extent that a hostage deal is now possible.
I think that thanks to the intense activity, of which you are a central part, both the deterrence of Iran and what is happening in Lebanon and everywhere, the intensity of the pressure on this monstrous organization called Hamas is increasing, and there is a chance that this time we will really be able to advance a hostage deal, and we are working on this matter and see this goal before our eyes.
Meanwhile, the United Nations General Assembly resumed the 10th emergency special session to discuss the crisis. And for more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani has sent us this report from UN headquarters, New York.
On Wednesday, the United Nations General Assembly resumed its 10th emergency special session to address the, quote, illegal Israeli actions in occupied East Jerusalem and the rest of the occupied Palestinian territory. Member states engaged in heated debates revealing the sharp division over the situation in the Middle East region. Delegates focused on the humanitarian consequences of the ongoing violence and alleged violation of international rules and regulations, and the expansion of settlements in East Jerusalem and other occupied areas, of course. Now, ultimately, these discussions really highlight deep disagreements among member states over the best approach to move forward and put an end to these, quote, illegal settlements and the violence that's going on in the region. And ultimately, if they do come up with a resolution, that resolution at the General Assembly will be non-binding. It is not like Security Council resolutions where there is an enforcement mechanism. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION all this one.
Russian forces claimed they captured 2 more settlements in Ukraine over the past 24 hours.
In a briefing, the Russian Defense Ministry said its forces launched strikes on the energy facilities of Ukrainian military enterprises, military airfield infrastructure along with manpower and equipment concentration areas.
The ministry said its air defenses shot down dozens of unmanned aerial vehicles of the Ukrainian Air Force over the past day. Russian troops also continue to strike Ukrainian manpower and equipment in the western region of Kursk.
On the same day, the General Staff of the Ukrainian Armed Forces reported that as of Tuesday afternoon, Ukrainian forces engaged in over 100 fights with Russian forces, most on the axis of Kurakhov and Pokrovsk.
Meanwhile, in a significant development underscoring manpower shortages of the Ukrainian army, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said that Ukraine has to decide on further mobilization of troops in its war against the Russian invasion. Blinken made these comments after a 2-day meeting with the foreign ministers of the NATO alliance in Brussels.
And then finally, mobilization. This is critical because even with the money, even with the munitions, there have to be people on the front lines to deal with the Russian aggression. Ukraine has hard decisions to make about further mobilization, but these are necessary decisions. We have a commitment, though, for every person, every soldier that Ukraine mobilizes. We're committed to making sure that they have the training and the equipment they need to effectively defend the country.
And for more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani has sent us this report from New York. Listen to this.
On Wednesday, the United States, as December's president of the United Nations Security Council, convened a critical briefing on Ukraine, focusing on the devastating impact on children. UNICEF Executive Director Catherine Russell revealed alarming statistics. Over 1,700 Ukrainian children have been killed or injured since the war began, with millions lacking essentials like clean water, sanitation, and education. She highlighted the destruction of civilian infrastructures, including hospitals and schools. A U.S.-backed report presented evidence alleging that Russia forcibly is transferring Ukrainian children, acts deemed war crimes by the International Criminal Court. President Biden has approved an additional $10 billion in military and humanitarian aid, according to the U.S. This is to support, quote-unquote, Ukraine's resilience during the ongoing conflict. But the meeting leaves a critical question for the international community to answer. How can we ensure the protection of Ukraine's most vulnerable while pushing for a sustainable path for peace? Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World This One.
And South Korea's opposition is aiming for an impeachment vote on Saturday against President Yoon Suk-yeol, as per local media reports.
Well, the leader of South Korea's ruling party has asked the president to leave the party, even as he vowed to block an opposition-led impeachment motion over his brief declaration of martial law.
The ruling People Party has said that all of its 108 lawmakers will stay united to reject the president's impeachment. The opposition needs 8 ruling party lawmakers to vote with them for the impeachment bill to pass.
Meanwhile, President Yoon Suk-yeol has accepted the resignation of Defense Minister Kim Yong-hyun amid growing controversy surrounding his role in Yoon Suk-yeol's aborted martial law declaration. Now, there have been growing calls for President Yoon Suk-yeol to step down. If the impeachment bill is approved, it could trigger a major political crisis in Asia's 4th largest economy, South Korea.
계엄을 해제한다 해도 even if martial law is lifted, he cannot avoid treason charges. It was clearly revealed to the entire nation that President Yoon could no longer run the country normally.
온 국민 앞에 명백히 드러났습니다.
While on the surface it seemed like a usual Wednesday for the common people, deep down the overnight political drama has brought in a sense of uncertainty, of course.
People held a candlelight vigil in the capital city, condemning the president's surprise declaration of martial law, which lasted all of 6 hours.
다 있다고 볼 수 있습니다. 이것은 또한 온 국민을, 온 시민을 우롱하고 기만하는 행위에 네 번째, 윤석열은 퇴진하라!
I found out this morning that martial law had been declared, and I was truly shocked to hear the news. I looked into it further and was relieved to see that it was safely lifted by the morning. Now, being able to enjoy a cup of coffee in the afternoon feels like something to be genuinely grateful for.
I'm heading to Gangneung today, but when I first heard the news, I was worried I might not be able to go. However, more than the trip itself, I was concerned about the restrictions we might face in our daily lives. I'm really glad that things worked out and I can still go on this trip.
그래도 이렇게 갈 수 있게 돼서 너무 다행이라고 생각해요.
A Chinese man has been arrested from California for allegedly exporting guns and ammunition to North Korea.
Now, according to the U.S. Justice Department, 41-year-old Shen Guo-wen is charged with violating long-standing U.S. sanctions against North Korea.
When an unidentified Co-conspirators allegedly concealed firearms and ammunition inside shipping containers that were shipped from Long Beach in California through Hong Kong to North Korea. Now, the Justice Department said that law enforcement seized 2 devices in August at Wen's home, a chemical threat identification device and a handheld broadband receiver that detects eavesdropping devices. In September, law enforcement seized 50,000 rounds of 9mm ammunition that Wen allegedly obtained to send to North Korea.
Wen also attempted to obtain a civilian plane engine from a US-based broker. He faces up to 20 years in prison for conspiracy. And the Indian police are seeking information from Elon Musk's Starlink after a massive drug haul was seized in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands.
Well, the smugglers used Starlink's satellite internet device to navigate and bring in meth worth $4.25 billion into Indian waters for the first time. Police uncovered over 6,000 kilograms of meth on a Myanmar boat carrying sacks of the suspected contraband and detained 6 Myanmar nationals. The incident has raised concerns as it's the first time Starlink's devices, it has been used to navigate the deep seas, evade detection and reach Indian waters. Police are now seeking details from Starlink, including who purchased the device and its usage history, to track down the smugglers. Starlink provides coverage in international waters but requires government approval to operate in Indian territorial waters.
The Andaman police says this particular case was different as the smugglers directly operated phones with satellite connecting a Wi-Fi hotspot. The police say the smugglers were using Starlink since their journey started from Myanmar. They say the smugglers used the Starlink mini device described on its website as compact portable kit that can easily fit in a backpack.
Authorities in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands are investigating potential ties to local or foreign syndicates following a record-breaking meth seizure. And this incident marks the first time Starlink technology has been linked to illegal activities within international waters, raising concerns about its potential misuse.
Indian telecom operators are concerned about possible unfair competition. Therefore, it's still a contentious issue. The discussion about the company's regulatory status and its effects on the Indian telecom industry have only got more heated in light of the recent event.
Well, according to the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, India is a growing transit and destination market for meth from Myanmar. It said in 2023, seizures of meth reached a record high of 190 tons in East and Southeast Asia, as meth trafficking on maritime routes has increased in recent years.
And as we slip into a short break, here's a look at all the stories, climate stories that are making headlines across the globe.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Two South African opposition parties asked the country's top court to revive impeachment proceedings against President Cyril Ramaphosa over a scandal where more than $500,000 in cash was stashed in a couch at his ranch and then stolen. Outgoing US President Joe Biden visits Angola, fulfilling a promise made in late 2022 to visit sub-Saharan Africa. It is also Biden's first trip to the continent since becoming president. And designers give new life to second-hand clothing as Ghana's capital drowns in fast fashion waste. That's this week on World of Africa. At these times on WION, World is One.
Business Masters is an exciting show, I think, because it not only talks about the company's philosophies around how they have grown, but also how individuals have really used their own philosophy to integrate into businesses. I think this is very useful for anyone who's starting a business, who's running a business, or not just entrepreneurs, but even students and professionals who are wanting to get into business.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
WION brings you a special business talk show where we bring forth the stories of business leaders.
From breakthrough technologies to visionary leadership, we will unlock the trends, the tactics, and dive into the minds of the industry's most influential leaders.
WION brings you this special series to uncover what drives them in a candid talk show, WION Business Masters.
Welcome back, viewers. You're watching World DNA with him, and I'm Shivan. Lots to discuss on this side of the show as well. Let's start with the headlines.
French Prime Minister Barnier to submit resignation to President Macron today after his government loses no confidence vote in the parliament.
Leader of South Korea's ruling party asks President Yoon Suk-yeol to leave the party. Defense Minister resigns over turmoil caused by imposition of martial law.
Rebels surround Syria's key central city of Hama from three sides as per a war monitor. Over 115,000 people displaced by fighting.
Thousands of pro-EU protesters rally in Georgia for a seventh consecutive night after police raided opposition party offices and made arrests.
Massive manhunt underway in the United States after top insurance company CEO shot dead outside a New York hotel.
Newcastle United hold leaders Liverpool in a 6-goal thriller at St James Park. The draw cuts the Reds' lead at the top to 7 points in the Premier League. Alright, let's start off by giving you updates from the Indian state of Maharashtra. The suspense over the next Chief Minister of Maharashtra ended with senior BJP leader Devendra Fadnavis set to take oath today.
Now, Fadnavis is expected to be sworn in with two deputy chief ministers, and the oath-taking ceremony to be attended by Prime Minister Narendra Modi is scheduled to be held at 5:30 p.m. local time in Mumbai.
Outgoing Chief Minister Eknath Shinde is also expected to take oath as Fadnavis' deputy at the ceremony. Nationalist Congress Party NCP head Ajit Pawar is expected to return as Deputy Chief Minister. Shinde's Shiv Sena and Pawar's NCP are part of the Mahayuti alliance led by the BJP.
Fadnavis said he has requested Shinde to be part of the cabinet. The Shiv Sena leader, however, is yet to officially announce his final decision. Fadnavis was picked by the BJP's core committee in Mumbai ahead of a meeting of the Maharashtra Legislative Party. This will be Fadnavis' third term as the Chief Minister of Maharashtra.
Preparations are underway at Mumbai's Azad Maidan. The event is expected to be attended by Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Union Minister Amit Shah, along with the Chief Ministers of NDA-ruled states. Now, in the recently held state assembly elections in Maharashtra, the Mahayuti alliance had a landslide victory. They won 230 out of the 288 assembly seats. The BJP led with 132 seats, with 144 being the majority mark, while the Shiv Sena got 57 and NCP got 41 seats.
And after devastating floods in Malaysia that saw tens of thousands of people evacuated, health volunteers are now preparing for surge in waterborne diseases.
The water in the worst affected areas of Kelantan on Malaysia's northeastern coast has receded. But as per government data, more than 4,000 people remain at temporary shelters, and fears of a potential second wave of flooding remains this week.
We have brought in a couple more mobile clinic teams, the medical team, traveling from Kuala Lumpur and the rest of the other countries to Kelantan. So we and as mentioned, we have sort of stockpile our hygiene kits at our base camp. These are all to be distributed if ever that the surge of the community to move into the PPS is going to happen again. So we kind of prepared.
In recent days, videos of children playing in muddy floodwaters have gone viral, sparking concerns over the potential spread of waterborne diseases.
As per data from health agencies, nearly 5,000 cases of infectious diseases, including stomach flu, respiratory and skin infections, have been detected at Kelantan relief centres so far. The Malaysian Medical Relief Society, or Mercy Malaysia, said the number of reported cases have been manageable, but its volunteers remained on alert for any future spikes.
The Med Department said it expected a monsoon surge from the 8th of December to the 14th, which could bring continuous rain to the east coast of Malaysia's peninsula and parts of Sabah and Sarawak states on Borneo Island.
A relic celebrated as a truth of the Buddha was taken to a shrine in the Thai capital, Bangkok. The tooth was escorted on Wednesday by a parade of almost 2,000 individuals.
Now, they were dressed in beautiful costumes in celebration of King Maha Vajiralongkorn's birthday. Thailand's Prime Minister, along with members of her cabinet, were there to receive the tooth. According to local media, several senior officials as well as the ambassador to Thailand represented China. The arrival of the relic also celebrates almost 50 years of diplomatic relations between the two countries, which will be marked in 2025.
The relic, which is considered sacred by Buddhists, was flown in from Beijing's Lingguang Temple. It was put in an ornate golden container and placed on a flower-bedecked float for the parade through one of the oldest parts of Bangkok. It will be on public display at the pavilion for 73 days until mid-February.
Now, why do people age faster during space travel? The scientists are close to finding out the answer.
Well, definitely it's a question which have baffled many. Human tissue samples from Oxford Space Innovation Lab are going through a research aboard the International Space Station. The experiment is designed to see if microgravity offers the ability to accelerate aging process in space.
Now, miniaturized and simplified version of organs produced in vitro are housed in a self-contained laboratory in a small cube, and this cube plugs directly to the ISS and gives real-time data and control back to Oxford.
So our control system is attached directly to a platform inside the International Space Station. And our sample are put there, actually are present there in the moment. Of course, you would have to put them in a very specific box. The box have a small computer and all the detection material that we need to get the measurements we wanted. And we can actually control that and see all the data coming all the time.
Decades of space travel have revealed how microgravity affects the human body, including diminishing bone density and weakening the immune system. The goal is to find ways to slow down age-related health issues such as osteoporosis and immune system decline, whether you're on Earth or in space. Plans for missions to Mars and even beyond mean finding a solution to this problem as a priority. General Motors will have to take more than $5 billion in charges and write-downs related to its troubled operations in China.
And this comes as General Motors tries to save its once profitable company in the biggest vehicle market in the world. The automaker revealed that it may take a $2.9 billion hit to the value of its Chinese joint ventures. The corporation will incur additional charges of $2.7 billion due to the closure of plants and reorganization of its activities in China.
GM's stock fell over 1%. The market slump that the Detroit car maker and its Chinese partner SAIC Motor have been experiencing for years is now being addressed with these actions. Government subsidies and a deluge of new models have been crucial to the success of China's manufacturers. To elevate its homegrown automakers to the position of domestic and international powerhouses, China has provided financial support to domestic manufacturers.
As a result, international automakers have pulled back. The last 6 years have seen a number of factory closures, sales and withdrawals from joint ventures among automakers in the United States, Japan, Korea and Europe. General Motors has also taken a hit in line with other international manufacturers, and the automakers already lost $347 million in China through the first 9 months of this year. According to General Motors spokesperson Jim Kane, the initiative may still be turned around and made profitable even though there have been some setbacks in China. The company expects the operations will be able to move forward without additional capital investment from General Motors. In Hanoi, one of the world's most polluted capitals, a new generation is leading the charge for cleaner air.
Well, our next report delves into how Vietnam's shift to e-mobility could shape the future of its streets and its air quality. Take a look.
In Hanoi, one of the world's top 10 most polluted capitals, the streets are dominated by over 77 million petrol-powered motorbikes. The fumes they produce contribute to more than 2/3 of the city's poisonous smog, according to local authorities. However, a growing number of Generation Z workers are switching to electric bikes.
It's chaotic. There are traffic jams and fine dust everywhere. The weather is very unpredictable and tough when riding a motorbike.
These bikes, priced as low as $500, offer lower running costs and a cleaner alternative to petrol vehicles. In 2023, only 9% of Vietnam's two-wheeler sales were electric. But this was the second highest share globally after China. The government aims to make a quarter of the country's two-wheelers electric by 2030 to combat the air quality crisis. Despite their benefits, electric bikes face challenges. Many users, especially older drivers, hesitate to abandon petrol bikes due to convenience and familiarity. Issues like long charging times and limited charging infrastructure also persist.
I don't like electric bikes because they're not convenient. Riding them doesn't feel sturdy and they're unsafe on hilly roads. Gas-powered and manual bikes are much more convenient and safe. There are many gas stations providing better service. Additionally, carrying goods on a gas-powered bike is much easier.
Innovations like battery swapping stations, pioneered by local startup Selex, offer solutions. These stations allow riders to exchange depleted batteries instantly, benefiting delivery firms and long-distance drivers. Backed by the Asian Development Bank, Selex has partnered with logistics giants like DHL to integrate e-bikes into their operations. However, experts emphasize that Hanoi's traffic woes require broader solutions, including investments in public transport. In essence, the challenge of changing vehicle ownership and usage to reduce congestion is a long-term one. If we solely focus on shifting petrol two-wheelers to electric, problems will remain. The road network doesn't change. As Vietnam's government considers incentives like waiving EV registration fees, the rise in e-bike ownership offers hope for reducing pollution and improving urban mobility. Business Bureau, WION, World is One.
I'll start.
All right, next up, let's take a look at what's happening in technology. Norwegian-based 1X has introduced its first humanoid robot named Neo. The Neo robot is capable of performing household chores such as laundry, cleaning and tidying. The robot's AI system enables it to handle tasks autonomously. It can also engage in conversations. And additionally, Neo can be remotely piloted, allowing users to interact with the robot from anywhere in the world. Still in the development phase though, the Neo robot will hit the market next year.
A group of experts have submitted an extensive 250-page report to the Spanish government calling for an overall ban on digital devices for young children. Experts have suggested no digital device exposure for kids under 3 and limited access for those under the age of 13. Moreover, the report also suggests putting a health warning on smartphones similar to the one found on cigarette packages. The report also suggests promoting dumb phones for kids aged 6 to 12. Dumb phones are basic mobile phones that do not support internet access. The committee has also urged medical practitioners to include questions about screen time among kids during their regular health checkups.
In a major cybersecurity breach, 16 million customer records of HDFC Life Insurance are being sold on the dark web. The leaked data includes sensitive information like customer names, policy numbers, mobile numbers, and health details. Cybersecurity organization CyberPeace said that some of the data has already been sold, raising concerns about the misuse of the stolen data. HDFC Life has confirmed the incident and has said that they are investigating. This follows a similar incident involving Star Health Insurance where 7.24 terabytes of data got leaked just last month.
All right, on to some updates now from the world of sports. Let's quickly get you a roundup of the Premier League midweek action for match day 14. Arsenal worked their set-piece magic to overcome Manchester United at the Emirates. The visitors were able to contain the Gunners in the first half, but could not